Hello, everybody. My name is Mark Terry. Programs are brought to remote and Indigenous communities to ensure access for as many youthful participants as possible. There are currently more than 750 videos in the database representing all 7 continents, and that includes Antarctica. And this is what the map looks like. And if you follow the URL provided on the slide here, tiny.cc/UNF/CC, you'll find this map at that URL. And all you have to do is click on any of those colorful pins to watch any one of the 750 videos in the database. So what are the aims and objectives of the Youth Climate Report? Well, film is a valuable medium for communicating data to international policymakers. Written and peer-reviewed scientific papers can sometimes be a challenge to some elected officials without a scientific background. Film provides a visual context to these papers and often presents compelling visible evidence of climate events around the world. These films made by youth bridge the communications gap between science and policy, as well as between youth and policymaker. Films made each year are presented directly to policymakers working in the blue zone of the COP conference through a series of press conferences just like this and side events. There are 4 goals to the Youth Climate Report. The first one is to provide a visual data delivery system of new climate and sustainability research from around the world to the delegates and negotiators attending the COP conferences. The second goal is to provide a voice for youth around the world so they may be heard at the COP conferences. The third is to provide a voice to the global scientific community so their latest research will reach the environmental policymakers of the United Nations. And finally, to give voice to the underrepresented communities of Indigenous people and those living in remote parts of the world. So we have several training programs and we reach out to remote communities as often as we can. And we have these well-established training sessions and workshops that we roll out every single year. In North America, we have the Planetary Health Film Lab. That's out of the Donnelly Institute for Global Health Research at York University in Toronto. We also have the Young Lives Research Lab, also out of York University in Toronto. In Central and South America, we have the Yachapacha Earth Knowledge program. That's out of the Quechua Academy of the Humanities in Quito, Ecuador. And the Indigenous Filmmaking Workshop we just completed earlier this summer, and that's brought to you by the John Cho Society in Belize. In Europe, we work with the Young Reporters for the Environment out of the University of Copenhagen in Denmark. In Africa, we have the Ghana Youth Videography Program. That's with the University of Ghana and Gimpa University in Accra in Ghana. And in Asia, we have the Next Generation Video Challenge from the Temasek Polytechnical University in Singapore. And finally, believe it or not, in Antarctica, we work with the British Antarctic Survey out of the University of Cambridge in the UK. There's only one continent missing there, and we plan to find a program in Australia in the very next year. Now, one of the aims that we have with every COP conference is to produce a feature documentary film that we can showcase at the COP conferences. And this year we have a very special film called Turning Tides, Sustainability Measures for Shark Conservation. This is a feature documentary examining the impacts of climate change and plastic waste on shark populations, specifically in the Pacific Ocean. The underwater photography was shot in Hawaii by the filmmaker Vivian Guido. She was a master's student and recent graduate who focused on this film and the research involved with that as part of her master's program. It was made by Vivian Guido, as I mentioned, and she was at York University in Toronto. The film proposes sustainability measures for shark conservation based on the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Now, we have a couple of screenings this year at COP28. The first one was yesterday at the Canada Pavilion, and that was a very successful screening, and that was the world premiere of the film, actually. And on December 5th at 6:30 p.m., there will be another screening at the Climate Justice Civil Society Hub. So mark that in your calendars, please. Here is a trailer of the film I'd like to share with you, give you a taste of what this film's all about. Can we get some audio, please? Thank you.
The United Nations has taken on a formidable task, but also made some significant commitments towards protecting the ocean with the Sustainable Development Goals. We have a long way to go to achieve those, but many of those goals are almost being met. In many cases, protection doesn't start from the government. It starts from the people. And if you think about Earth Day back in the 1970s, in response to oil spills and pollution in the ocean, the people got mad and they rose up and they said, we don't want this anymore. Going forward 50 years, we need to have that same kind of anger or passion or voice to protect the ocean.
This is a truly remarkable documentary made by a first-time filmmaker and graduate student. I highly recommend that you make an effort to see this when it's playing at COP28. The other project that we're presenting here is the Planetary Health Film Lab of 2023. This is the Belize edition. And we were in Belize for the summer working with Indigenous youth there to produce 6 documentary shorts. The 6 films made by Indigenous youth in Belize are on planetary health issues impacting on their communities specifically. This is the 4th edition of the Planetary Health Film Lab, a research project out of the Daudelet Institute for Global Health Research at York University in Toronto, Canada. The project leads for this is James Orbinski and Kate Tilachek and Deborah McDonald, and of course myself. It was made in collaboration with the Young Lives Research Lab out of York University, and it was funded by the Peterborough K.M. Hunter Charitable Foundation. Now, the screening that we have at COP28 here is on December the 7th at 1500 hours at the Future Mobility Hub in the Dubai Multi-Commodities Center. So we're going to be showing all 6 films, so hopefully you're available then to take in these very fascinating films about climate impacts in Belize. And we have one of the films to give you a taste of what to expect.
In Belize, our Maya communities live among forested lands. We have cared for the land for generations, learning from it. We also realize that knowing our borders is important.
Jalan Joko di sepanjang kil sepanjang nak kongak di kasutam dari kunghong cik alepal di wakat nakanau par tenanume di kali dan nakanau par nakonume sekahong kali.
Lain saya Jona Jokin si cari pada kira kan, kadang kah rilbal di nakah nak etjo beh karubag ang hilain. Medyo ko banangkin.
With securing land ownership, our communities can improve our governance system.
Land boundary help us manage and improve current sustainable practices, improve local governance like the forest customary use system, and strengthening the extraction of forest produce. We can also strengthen the protection of our sacred and spiritual site and the protection of our natural resources for future generations.
Knowing the land boundaries can help us manage our resources better, allowing us to improve current sustainable strategies and practices for our children and children's children.
What we do right now will determine what will happen in the future. So what is important for me as a leader is to educate them.
Ownership, respecting limits, and working together makes our Maya community strong and united. That keeps our home safe now and for future generations.
Do not do excessive deforestation. We do not abuse our land. We need to know what we have and the importance of it. So those are very key when it comes to protecting and planting another tree. To every tree you cut, you plant 6, and in the future they would be the one to harvest these. So when it comes to what will they harvest out of what we're doing right now for their future, their ancestors had fight for them. It's important for us to do our part. Let's secure our land. Let's be educated, because this will only benefit us for our future generations to come.
Land tenure security is important for the survival of future generations, because we are just borrowing from them. It ensures that we continue our traditions, ancestral connections.
Now, it's important to note that with all these training programs and workshops that we do, we encourage the young people to conduct their interviews in their native languages, because as you know, this is the second year in the UN's International Decade for Indigenous Languages. So even though some of these languages may be dropping off in frequency and being spoken around the world, having forums like this gives rise and strength to those languages. And the other thing that we try to do is work with young people that have never worked with film before. Now, some of our participants actually have some film experience, but many do not. And so the films that you're seeing here and in the Youth Climate Report database are often first-time projects for many of our young participants. And the skills that they get from the workshops that we provide, they use again and again in subsequent years, and they also trade those skills with their peers, so that there's kind of an expansive network that results from this project, so that young people, as many as possible, can participate in the COP conferences by producing these films and uploading them to the Youth Climate Report. Now, the other program we have is the Ghana Youth Videography Program. I mentioned this earlier today, and I just wanted to share with you the screenings that we have. The first is December the 3rd, 2 days from now at 17:15 in the Entertainment and Culture Pavilion. And then again on December the 8th at 11:30 at the Eco-Spectrum panel discussion. It's a 90-minute program, and that's in SE Room 2. I hope you can make that, because it's going to be a fascinating discussion about those with disability challenges. So the Ghana Youth Videography Program, we're going to present this year 11 short documentary films made by Ghanaian youth on the impacts of climate change in southern Ghana. And we're also going to present another 6 films made by Ghanaian youth in the north, with a focus on how climate change impacts on the disabled. The Ghana Youth Videography Program is a partner program of the Youth Climate Report out of Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo, Ontario, Canada. And it's led by Professors Jeff Grishow and Magnus Mafofo McCarthy and myself again. Now here's just a very short little 1-minute video showing the exhibition of the films. Once the films are completed, we stage a film festival, which is the first public exhibition of the films made by our youthful participants, and it takes place in Accra, Ghana. So I'll share that with you now.
Experience a compilation of quite a few films, 11 films made by Ghanaian youth ages 18 to 35 with support from Wilfrid Laurier University and the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council of Canada, also support from the United Nations Youth Climate Report. We provided support, but the filmmakers made their own films in their own locations, and the results are astounding.
It's a wonderful program. Okay, another special film that we have to present at COP28 this year is called A Faithful Commitment to Sustainability. And we have a special screening of that film on December the 11th at 9 a.m. in the Canada Pavilion here in the Blue Zone. It's a 26-minute documentary examining new sustainability measures being taken by the Muslim community of a mosque in Vaughan, Ontario, Canada. Produced, shot, edited, and directed by PhD graduate student Payman Naimi. The film details new and innovative ways of reducing waste for its congregation at meals that follow services. The new sustainability practices have reduced waste from 20 garbage bags to 2. It's a very impressive program. It's completely innovative and rolled out specifically for this community. And because it was so successful, Payman decided to do a documentary about it that we'd like to share here at COP28 as a way of inspiring other congregations and other countries to follow suit. And here's a little trailer for that film.
O children of Adam, put on your adornment on every occasion of prayer, and eat and drink, but do not waste. Indeed, he does not like the wasteful. So here, it was a perfect example. We were seeing waste upon waste.
Here we are worshiping God, and we are really damaging his planet.
We're here at the Joffrey Community Center to talk about some of the initiatives being taken by the eco team here.
We set up an eco station. This was a huge stepping stone. We got a lot of resistance. This was changing of a habit.
You're not going to give up. You can't go back to styrofoam. There has been an impact. People are actually thinking differently now.
Hey guys, we can't just put everything in the garbage. We have to separate everything. They look at me a little bit dumbfounded.
He will say, oh, David Suzuki's here.
We always ask, is Shalina coming? So we have to make sure that, there's no styrofoam in the house. It's not even a question in my head anymore. It's just something that I've continued doing.
And after communicating this objective data to the community, we saw a sharp decline in the amount of food waste that we had per person per night.
My motto was always to bring the youth forward.
You are the role model for your kid.
This community center is basically also my home.
Okay, please make a point of seeing this very inspirational film on December 11th, again at the Canada Pavilion.
All children.
Now, there's one other thing that I'd like to talk about. It's a little bit different from the films that we produce with the Global Community of Youth, but this is the North America RCOY Youth Statement. RCOY stands for the Regional Community or Conference of Youth. And as part of our preparations for the Global Youth Statement, the Youth Climate Report sponsored this year's Regional Conference of Youth for North America. The resulting North American Youth Statement includes a framework for direct youth engagement in policy creation with the United Nations. The 5 components of this framework include access, respect, collaboration, finance, and finally, authorship. So these items will comprise new demands in the statement by the Global Community of Youth to facilitate a participatory process for youth to collaborate on all new climate policy in 2024 and beyond. They are outlined in our new book called Speaking Youth to Power, Influencing Climate Policy at the United Nations. And here's a copy of the book. And for the media here that's in attendance, complimentary copies of the book are available to the media for review purposes. If you would like a copy of this book, again complimentary, please write us at ycrtv1@gmail.com. And finally, contact information and our social media. The project website can be found at youthclimatereport.com. The UNFCCC website is bit.ly/UNFCCC-YCR. Our email is ycrtv1@gmail.com. Our Instagram is Youth Climate Report. The 3 words are separated by underscores. And our Facebook is Youth Climate Report. Our Twitter or X handle is @YCRTV. And finally, all the videos that you can find in the database can also be found on our YouTube channel, which is Youth Climate Report. So thank you very much. And if we have any questions, I think we have a bit of time for that as well. Thank you. Right on, thanks a lot. Any questions? All right, if there's no questions, thank you again for your time and attention, and I hope to see you at our screenings.